everyone. I know it's been a few weeks since we've had a live office hours, but we're back in the fight. I'm your host, Iron Mike Stedman, joined by my co-host, Miss Amy Morrison, and our guest today, Donnell Johns from Veterans Growing America. Donnell, did I say that right?
You did. It is Donnell Johns.
All right, man. First of all, it's an honor to be here today. As many of you know, Bunker Labs is a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to growing our amazing ecosystem. We do this show to go live and engage the community. And it's funny, I'll tell y'all, I feel like LinkedIn is the battleground for business now. Like all these corporations, nonprofit organizations, everyone is like, how do we engage customers, prospects, donors, whatever you want to call it on LinkedIn? And for us at the Bunker, it's more about creating engaging content to help our entrepreneurs out there, veterans and military spouses win the day. So I'm excited to have you here, Donnell. Before we jump into Veterans Growing America, I want to pass it over to Amy to talk about what's happening in the Bunker.
Thanks, Mike. This week we've got not a lot going on. Summer is our downtime, kind of. So we've got CEO Circle applications open through tomorrow evening. So that's CEO Circle apps open through tomorrow, August 3rd. That's open to all veteran and military spouse founders and executives of stable post-revenue companies. And you can learn more and apply at bunkerlabs.org/CEO-circle. And then since it's been a couple weeks since we've been live, just want to remind everyone to check out the community page at bunkerlabs.org to see what local events might be happening in your area.
Awesome.
That's it.
Perfect. All right, Donnell. Me and him have been going back and forth online. I feel like I jump on these platforms, whether it's the Transition Podcast or Office Hours, and feel like I already know a lot of y'all, right? Because we see each other's content, we're visible. But this is the first time you and I have actually got to sit down and chop it up. And so what I'd love for you to do is introduce yourself to our audience, let them know all the amazing things that you're doing at Veterans Growing America, and let's talk through some of the challenges that you guys are facing as you look to scale up.
Absolutely. So my name is Donnell Johns. I'm a retired command sergeant major. I did 26 years in the military. One of my biggest accomplishments was I was the first Army National Guard G1 sergeant major in Army National Guard history. And then I was also a recruiting sergeant major. And one of the things that was important to me when I left the military was building community. When I left, I was there. I was by myself when I had, thousands of people where I can, reach out to and support. And I didn't really know what to do. There was no community out there for me, and I didn't know anything about Bunker Labs. They didn't tell me this type of stuff, when I was in the military. And so here's a funny story, Mike. Is one of my friends of mine invited me down to the Bunker Labs WeWork, and I went down to the WeWork, and we actually had lunch, and we sat down, and on a napkin, I talked to him about what I wanted to do as far as Veterans Growing America, and I was basically, told him, I was like, I want to be the mall instead of a store. I want to be a place where people find our community and work with our community and buy from us. And so it was basically born on a napkin. From there, we did our first event in Manassas, where we did a pop-up at a veteran coffee shop. We had 17 veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs at that event, and over 1,000 people showed up to support, and it blew my mind. In fact, several of the vendors are still in business today. They're still a part of that same community, and we continue to grow. Since then, we've partnered with the Army and Air Force Exchange, and then most recently, we just opened up a pop-up store in Woodbridge, Virginia, in a premier shopping center that hosts Apple, Starbucks, and several other big box names. And so, Veterans Growing America is in alignment. You'll see this logo on the outside of a business, which is huge.
Congratulations, man. That's absolutely amazing. And what year did you start Veterans Growing America, and what year did you get out of the military?
So I got out of the military in 2016. It was Veterans Grow Virginia back in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. And then Veterans Growing America officially as a name started in 2020.
So what has it been like thinking about building your business model for this? So one of the things I asked you in a pre-interview, I was like, is Veterans Going America a nonprofit? You're a for-profit. And I know that setting up marketplaces, hosting events is not an easy business model. So I'm curious to learn like what the initial business model was and what you are scaling up to these days.
So the initial business model was just the pop-up event. And then we grew from the pop-up event to events nationally through the Army and Air Force Exchange. And then I was like, people kept always asking me, how do I shop with veterans? And so we started doing catalogs at our events and sharing those catalogs with the people that purchase from them, because a lot of my vendors, are, basically make money after the event. And so we started doing catalogs. And then from there, I was like, you know what, let's go online and let's start an online community. And I started a group of veterans where we share information about anything that's out there. I call Veterans Growing America the umbrella organization for everything entrepreneur. And everyone is our customer. Like Bunker Labs, when you guys come out with stuff, I share it. If Dog Tag comes out with something, I share it. Anything veteran or that supports our community, I share that information with the Veterans Growing America community. In addition to that, people can shop on our website. We just opened up the store last week. It's not very many things in there, but we have an online store. But it's growing. It's growing in several different ways. Number one, our pop-up store. I just was approached by opening up another pop-up store. I don't know if we're ready for that yet. That's the challenging part, because people see it and they're like, oh, this is amazing. And they walk up into our location and like, let's do another one. I'm like, give me time to perfect this one.
They also don't see what goes on behind the scenes. My girlfriend is a maker. You go to these events, they got the lovely tables and everything. It's so beautiful. Then as soon as everybody leaves, we're loading stuff in cars. You're like asking people like, man, where do you store your stuff? It's under beds. It's in closets. So it's like the front facing looks one way, but behind the scenes, it is a whole logistical situation, to say the least. Now, how do you monetize? So are you charging makers for an opportunity to use the platform? Are you charging the event space? Talk to us about that.
So we are charging our vendors to vend with us. We're also, because we have to pay for our venue. I mean, that costs money. The location where we're at, they didn't say, hey, have this space for free. Plus it costs to do marketing and advertising. It costs to do flyers. It costs to do almost everything that you do in business. It costs. It's either time, energy, effort, and a lot of money. In addition to that, we have to buy tables, chairs. It costs to put the stuff on the windows. I mean, I didn't realize how much effort and energy, like you said, behind the scenes is chaos.
Yeah,
but it's fun.
It is fun. Yeah, you're right though. You go to these pop-ups and you're asking like, do y'all have chairs? Like, is there water? Like all this basic stuff that people don't think about. And military people, we think logistics, right? That's our wheelhouse. And I've gone to these maker events where they don't have logistics and stuff taken care of, and they didn't charge the makers for it. And it's a complete nightmare. But let me say this. I have a bias and passion for makers because I think makers is a great platform for getting people in the entrepreneurial fight. And that's what you're doing, right? Every time, this is my personal thing. Every time I go to a maker event, I always make sure I spend money, right? Because I want someone to know I believe in you, right? I was at a maker event a few months ago. A girl had some journals that she was making, right? And I went and I was her first customer because it was her first event. And I was just like, now I haven't used a journal yet, but I make a habit when I go walk around these events, I spend. And so what you're doing though, is you're creating a launch pad, a safe space for veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses to come, get introduced to sales and promoting themselves. And in the ideal world, use this to scale up, drive traffic to their website or whatever else they're doing. Maybe they're just testing a product, and that's what you're allowing them to do.
In addition to that, they also work on their pitch. I hear their pitches, from the time that they start to the end of the day. And it's like they change up at the end of the day. Like they're working on their pitches. They're also driving people to their website. I mean, it's so much. And in addition to that, one of the biggest things is they're doing this because of their passion. And imagine you're buying something from a person that is working on their passion. So now their passions can support, their household, and it's actually saving lives. One of my vendors told me, this is a pretty sad story, but a good story, that she was at the point where she almost committed suicide. And participating in one of our events made her feel like she mattered again because people cared about what she was doing. And it just blew my mind, that we're saving lives like that.
I'm actually reading a book right now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And I believe it's called Be Your Future Self Now. And one of the things he was talking about, I haven't finished the book yet, but how if you don't have a future for yourself, if you can't see a future, people just lose hope. They just get stuck where they are, or they get stuck in their past and they can't make real meaning of their past, right? And what entrepreneurship does is that excitement. This idea of, one, it takes courage. You got to believe that you're going to be successful. And then you're excited because you're committed to creating this future for yourself, whether as a small business owner, tech startup, whatever. And I'm curious to learn from you too. You are obviously in your own entrepreneurial hustle with Veterans Growing America. But in my experience, the people that put together maker events, the platforms, etc., you become almost business advisors, coaches and stuff, because these makers, they don't know what they don't know. So they're coming to you, and next thing you know, you got to start giving them advice on marketing and branding and sales, so they can win, because you want them to keep coming back. You don't want them to come to your event, spend all that time setting up, making whatever, and not getting any sales. So like, even as you're learning and growing, you're having to coach and do all this other stuff. How are you balancing that?
So I utilize resources. I'm also the founder of a 1 Million Cups in Fairfax, Virginia. And a lot of my vendors, I put them through 1 Million Cups because it's a free way that they can get free advice from entrepreneurs just like them that are in the same foxhole. And they come on the show, they talk about their business, and then they talk about their challenges. And then for 30 minutes, we have 30 to 40 entrepreneurs saying, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Let me connect you with this person. You ought to think about doing this. And it's amazing the response that they get. In addition to that, we as veterans, we were taught in the military to take care of the guy to our left and our right. And so our events, when we bring them together in one room, all of these makers support each other because business is the same on the inside, but the product is different on the outside. And so now they also support each other in success. And that's truly cool to watch. I watched one of the guys at my event. He had a drink shrub. And unfortunately, on the back of his drink shrub, he didn't have everything labeled correctly. And the other guy had a salad dressing, and the other guy talked to him about what he needed to do as far as fixing what was on the back of his bottle. And so these guys are teaching and supporting each other in the growth process.
That's amazing. Now, we've got a lot of people tuning in. Shout out to Jesse, Linda. Who else we got on here? Josh just joined us. And we got a lot of brain power on this call. I just saying a call, this interview, office hours, whatever, right? Talk to us about the challenges you're facing. Let's think through it as you scale up, right? Because we know behind the scenes is sausage making. It's the Wizard of Oz, y'all. Donnell's pulling a bunch of stuff, to make them pop-ups hit, right? But talk to us about some of the challenges you're facing. Let's think through how to work through them.
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges that we're having is, telling our story in this area, especially for the pop-up, right? I'm in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We have the pop-up store is located in between Quantico and Fort Belvoir, right smack in between it. But most makers don't identify as entrepreneurs or as veteran business owners. And so trying to identify those people and then also driving traffic into our store. And so we had to spun up so fast, I have to do all three. Find people to shop with them, and then market and advertise what's going on. And it's a struggle. And then I also have to manage, and my team has to manage, some of the people that I have to make sure that they're set up in there correctly, because I can't have 12 lotions and potions up in there at one
Yeah.
time. So I have to manage the number of people that are coming in and the type of products that they have. So it's a lot of stuff.
Have you thought about finding some strategic channel partners that are already doing some workforce entrepreneurial development in the local community, and they can flag veteran entrepreneurs for you, and make Veterans Grow in America where they go after they complete their initial training or stuff, etc. Right? The other thing to think about is when we're a startup entrepreneur, I don't care if you've been in business 4 or 5 years, if you ain't got $10 million in bank account, you still startup, right? Have you thought about who your perfect customer is for Veterans Grow in America? And I'll even think about it for me, right? Ironbound Boxing. I run a nonprofit. Okay. So I got two. I have my donors, right? Which tend to be Service Academy grads, because we all experience boxing. They love what we do and they support me. And then my young stakeholders, my kids, right? So I have two different kind of way I speak. And my kids, I engage on Instagram, and my donors, I engage through email and on a platform like LinkedIn. So for you, that's one of the challenges when you start doing marketplaces, is because it's very hard when you don't have a lot of capital, but you need a perfect customer for Veterans Grow in America, i.e. the foot traffic person, right? The person that loves to go out with their family, go exploring, go to these different maker events and stuff, spend money. And then you also need who is the perfect veteran entrepreneur or military spouse that you feel like would be a good fit. And I'm willing to bet, just thinking out loud, is that I have this DIY. I'm a DIYer, right? So where do DIYers hang out? What do they read? What do they listen to, etc.? They're making this product, and everybody tells them, hey, you should sell this, right? Or whatever, okay? The first place they need to go, if they're in your area, is Veterans Grow in America, because you do all the grunt work for them, right? You give them a platform, you make it easy. They have amazing support network and community around, and you start to reverse engineer the process. Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, we focus on these two perfect customers, our foot traffic and our makers.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the toughest part, because, I'm looking for patriotic Americans that want to support, veteran entrepreneurs, that want to be able to say thank you for your service in an honorable way. And then those vendors that have a product that they need to get in front of customers, and it doesn't need to be actual physical products. Sometimes it's services, some people are coming in there and they may need a plumber that they can trust, and then we also, need to also have in there some resources, because Veterans Growing America, when they walk in the door, they're like, what is this? And then when they find out resources that they have in the local community that can help them, especially, with the number of veterans that we have here and active service members, what resources, can they do to, as far as a job is concerned, as far as, their disability, what have you.
Linda Stevens showing some love, and she says, Donnell, I used to organize a maker event. Vendors can be horrible to deal with because they want to have this spot, or that person has this, they don't. But I love fixing these problems and making vendors happy. I came into it as a vendor. I made sure that there were water, chairs, and I made sure people got fed.
I like that. Let's connect, Linda.
Yeah, and then shout out to Ryan James on here. He said, go Army. No, beat Army, go Navy.
Mike, the deal. It's Army all day long.
Yeah, another thing to think about too is, okay, so you've got organization. We got Bunker Labs here. Okay, you've got what is it? IVMF. Okay, we've got Veteran Future Labs, right? There's all these other programs in our ecosystem that you can also send people to get additional resources, right? So that to make them become better entrepreneurs, so they can make the most out of your event. And I don't know about you, and I'm curious to hear from our audience. I have found in my experience, the people that love to spend money with veterans tend to be other veteran-owned business owners. Like I'll go out of my way to do service with a veteran-owned business. So that might be something to think about too, is identifying veteran-owned businesses in the area and networking with them to let them know about Veterans Grow in America. That way they can be, again, a great referral source, and they'll come out there and spend money. Josh Wildem says, so your idea is the center of the PXBX shopping centers, but in the community. My VFW tables at local farmers markets, RV shows, cruises, state fair, etc. Get it out there. And
No,
then
that's
Linda says, coffee runs to those events. Give it to your vendors. She says, make sure you get some coffee runs going.
we actually try to make sure that we have coffee vendors in there. Those coffee vendors make a lot of money when they come to.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, who are your most successful vendors?
So it's coffee vendors and hair care products are the two most successful vendors that come in there. I don't know why it's, I know why coffee, but I'm not a hair care product type of guy, but women, you know, come in there and get their hair care products, and they're truly fascinated. In fact, my two top sellers are two hair care product companies.
How much foot traffic are you getting on the weekends?
It depends. It depends on the weekend. The shopping center that I'm in is the only shopping center in probably about 10 miles that has an Apple store. So we have constant traffic there. Apple has already done the homework to know that, you know, people in the area have disposable income. And so we get about 10,000 something people, shoppers in the area. In fact, I-95 that goes right in front of us has over 193,000 cars pass through it. So
wow.
The area has a lot of people.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to go transition to one of my favorite parts of office hours, which is our book recommendation. While we're doing that, if you guys got any questions for Donnell and myself, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the chat. Kim asked, you have any plans to have this event in other cities that don't have a military presence? She'd love to be a vendor, but disability and location make it a challenge.
In the near future, probably not in 23, but probably in 24. We're perfecting the model here. So when we bring it other places, we'll have the right people at the right place doing the right stuff.
Got it. All right, Donnell, what book recommendation do you have for our viewers today?
This is probably one of my favorite books. In fact, I'm reading it and re-listening to it right now because it fits into what I'm going through. It's the E-Myth Revisited. And the reason, yes, by Michael Gerber. And the reason being is because, you know, as an entrepreneur, you wear many hats, but you can't wear them all. You have to manage the entire process. Right now, I'm the visionary, which is cool, but there's still tactics that need to go on, and I need all of the above. And so that's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, if you like that one, I recommend Mike Michalowicz's book, Run Like Clockwork. It's E-Myth on crack, right? So I think at a high level, Gerber says you need these things, but then Michalowicz kind of walks the dog through how to set it up for like a small business. Mm-hmm. And I've been telling people, if you're a small business or a startup without an operating system, you have an ugly baby. It goes to bed when it wants. It gets up. It ain't got no discipline, right? And what you got to do is you got to set conditions for that. So I'm big on building some kind of initial operating system for your business, which is, you know, we do this on Mondays, we do this on Tuesdays, you know, just to try to scale yourself out of the grunt work, right? And now you get to start to see the strategic level, how the whole thing works. And, you know, one advice I'm gonna give you is get a VA, a virtual assistant, because that's going to be your chief integrator. When you're up there doing invoices and doing all this other stuff, right? That's not your zone of genius. Your zone of genius is talking to people, doing stuff like this, and really building a brand and that kind of integrator stuff. You can have somebody else cover down on that. And for a lot of y'all out there, right, I came to this epiphany. The military is so much about, you know your strengths, know thyself, seek self-improvement. But as entrepreneurs, it can slow us down trying to focus on our weaknesses. Focus on your strengths, cover down on your weaknesses. It doesn't mean you have to physically do it, but you have someone in your team. But great book recommendation. Check that out. My book recommendation is Organized Tomorrow Today by Dr. Jason Selleck and Tom Bardo. I bought this book and the Audible like 3 years ago. I never finished it, but I'm over here leveling up, y'all. I just got my book back from copy editing. Ironbound Media is rolling, Ironbound Boxing, you know, transition, etc. And I was like, okay, I need to get better. And one of the things I like about this book is it's less about productivity and more on channel capacity, which means that, look, we're always going to get bombarded with 10 million different things, but it's on us to decide what are the most important and what's going to move the ball up the field. So yeah, any given day, you have 10, 15 different tasks facing you. Pick the top 3 ones, right? Focus on those that are going to drive the most value for you in your personal life and your business, etc., and be okay letting the other ones slide by the wayside. So they give some different tools and tactics in there, but I really like this book, and I'm going to be talking about things like this, more founder-focused issues on the transition for the next few weeks because, granted, we're in the fight. Businesses is hard, but if we can make you guys stronger out there as founders, right, whatever comes your way, you'll be prepared for. So highly recommend this book. If you get it, read it. Let's talk about it. Ping me on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc., and hope it provides some value to you all out there. So as we wrap up, Donnell, where can people find you? How can they support Veterans Growing America?
All right. So you can find us at Veterans Growing America on everything. The only thing that we're Veterans Growing on is Twitter, but follow us on all platforms. You can find everything on our website. It's being updated right now, but please follow us on our website, and especially, and we also have a Facebook group. And so look for our Facebook group, Veterans Growing America group. That's where we share a lot of information like, Bunker Labs. I know you guys already know about that, but what other resources out there? There's over 40,000 free resources for our community that we need to share with one another.
Awesome. Thanks, Donnell. And for everyone tuning in, I need a favor, a big favor from you all. If you could please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Transition Podcast right now, or as soon as we jump off, and also leave us a review on iTunes. We've got so much great, amazing content out there, and we need to get the word about it. I was able to have Hivers and Strivers on the podcast, which is the only veteran military venture capital firm that only invests in military veterans. I mean, they planted that flag in the ground. They say, we only invest in military veterans. I released that last week. This week, I'm going to be talking about, are you taking care of yourself as a founder? Are you working out? Are you eating good? The stuff that we tend not to talk about in this hustle, whatever world that people are in these days. So I just want to make sure that you guys are using this resource, sharing this resource, and implementing it. It ain't good enough to just listen, right? You need to listen to the episode and you need to go implement it. So if you could please subscribe to the Transition Podcast and leave us a review, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'd like to acknowledge our partners for today, MetLife Foundation, and their commitment to supporting veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs. They allow us to do this platform as well as a Transition Podcast. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do all this amazing content. Make sure you head over to bunkerlabs.org, sign up for the newsletter, and get plugged into the ecosystem. We've got programs that'll take you from idea to invoice, incubate you, and position you to grow alongside other founders and CEOs. Until next week, everyone, peace, love. Have a great rest of your week.